If you don't get all your questions answered, which you won't tonight, please feel free to call me after tonight's session. I offer people a half-hour free consultation to give you some private attention on how to get you unstuck or out of overwhelm, or how to move forward with or without me. There's no obligation. Okay, so the whole idea here is to just be with me now. Okay, and it's a very complicated, messy business. My name is Laura Moore, and I run a company called Clutter Clarity. And I've been doing this work, helping people declutter, organize, downsize, and move. Or move. Not everyone's moving. Everyone's different, so every job is unusual, and I have to put the pieces together. It's a lovely creative process. I work with people for maybe 1 hour over the phone to 3 hours during a session, but often I'm working with people for 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 years. I work with very intelligent people who are doing reasonably well in life. Their house might be a mess, but they're actually willing and able to step up and do what needs to be done. One person, I'm on my 7th year with her, okay? Now, she and I are quite close at this point, as you can imagine. But I go through her papers. This is a woman who would rather canvass for Bernie Sanders in the middle of a snowstorm than go through her papers. The two of us have figured out a way to trust each other to take care of her papers once a week for 3 hours a week. Okay? And before we moved her into a continued care community, I said, so why did you choose me to work with? There's plenty of organizers out there. And she said, you told me I could keep what I love. Her children wouldn't stay in the house anymore. That's how much it needed help. But she was not a hoarder. She was an excessive accumulator that liked to go shopping, and the stuff would come in and it would never go out, and it started taking over the house. And so once we decluttered and organized and threw a party for her family, then we started the conversation with, well, how do you have all your papers? Do you have all your end-of-life papers together? And she said, well, no, not really. She hadn't done her will for 5 years since her husband died. And so that really was the next step. She's now heading towards 80. And we spent about a year to go through every sentence of her will. I brought in the attorney, okay, every sentence of the will, and we figured it out, and we presented questions. Yeah, all phones off, please. And we got it done, and we shook hands that by her 80th birthday party, she was going to have these papers done. And the funniest things were happening. She loved to have fun and do everything else. So I said to her, sweetie pie, your birthday is in 2 weeks. You're turning 80, and we're kind of need to move things along a little bit. What do you think's going to help? And she'd go, I don't know. And I said, well, you know, we have shaken our hands, and my job is to help you do whatever you need to do. And I knew what 2 things that motivated her. Her family. She didn't want to become a burden to her family. Okay, so I was basically the surrogate daughter, helping her do whatever needs to be done. And I said, if you don't have those papers in shape before you fly off on your next vacation, she's going to go hiking in the Rocky Mountains. And I'm saying, this is somebody with asthma. That's not my business. So I said, we got to get these papers done because you might fall off the side of the mountain. And she said, I don't think that's going to happen. I said, we don't know. In a split second, anything can change. And I've been through 3 falls with her, and she keeps on bouncing back. She's now 84, but the reason we got those papers done is the other thing that motivates her is money. I never got involved with her money. She managed her money on her own. I mean, she paid her bills pretty well on her own. The papers that we got through were sort of the maintenance of life, and the 200 solicitations that came into her home, and the magazines, and all that stuff. And so I knew that I had to play the money card. And I said, I know what will motivate you. I know how we can get back on track. And she said, what? And I said, I'll double my fees if you do not make it by the 80th birthday. And she said, you wouldn't do that. And I said, I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to. You're getting to be a pain in the neck, sweetie. And we were laughing. She said, you wouldn't do that. And I said, yes, I will. And so we got all the papers done, and I took her to the airport, and on the way, we dropped off all her paperwork at her attorney. So I'm still with her. I love her. I only work with the people I like. I only work with 60% of the people who call me. If it's a good fit, it's a beautiful experience for both of us. And that's why I can stay vertical and keep on going into people's homes. And I teach people, my background's in education. I said, how is it possible that so many intelligent, creative, reasonably successful or very successful people are so stuck with the stuff in their homes? And it became really interesting to me that the professional organizing business and the media was promoting quick tips, quick strategies, get it done once and for all, attack your clutter. All of these things are incredibly misleading. And so if you don't get quick solutions in your home, my clients, I should say, they get frustrated. They start thinking that there's something wrong with them. And that's a real disservice for an industry. And so it's not that I wanted to be a professional organizer. It just happened to be the perfect place where I could put my energy, because I love homes, I love people, I love stuff, I love design and creativity, and I like figuring things out collaboratively. So I created an approach where we do the physical work together, but while we're doing it, I teach my clients how to think it through, not just what to do. How to make good decisions, how to negotiate agreements with your family members so you get cooperation, how to prevent overwhelm, how to stay motivated, how to manage your time so that you can keep on showing up in little bits through time. It's a whole sequence of things that need to happen so that you're just puttering through your clutter. You don't want to attack it, you don't want to be in a hurry. So I just want you to start thinking about this decluttering mess. I want to clear up, give you a fresh perspective. Why bother? Because if you actually get a fresh perspective, then you feel better. If you feel better, it's so much easier to do the work. And a lot of people say, this is so boring. I can't believe you do this 5 days a week. And I go, it's absolutely fascinating. From a cultural perspective, a historical perspective, a psychological perspective, an economic perspective. There's lots of really good reasons that we are in this mess together as Americans. We're overeating, we're overstressed, we're overscheduled, we're overtired, we're overspent, and our homes are just overstuffed, naturally. So when I go into a home, it's like, it's great. I go in the home and I don't see anything wrong. I just see patterns of thinking and patterns of behavior that create patterns of mess. A few adjustments to what people are thinking and what they're doing can set them free. You don't need brain surgery, you need adjustment. It's kind of like a chiropractic adjustment. And some people are more emotionally upset about this. Some people are out of time. They feel like they're out of time. So there's a lot of time management involved in this. And then we can get to this stuff. But the emotional management and time management are the two things that need to be addressed so that you can take care of your stuff in any reasonably comfortable way. Most people who call me are said, what am I going to do with my stuff? And I said, well, let's figure it out. Okay, but if they're stressed out, the same time that they're trying to solve the problem of what to do with their stuff, there's fight and flight, you know that? It's like, oh my God, I have to go volunteer or I have to go take care of somebody else, and often they do. So fight and flight and freeze, by definition, if you're overwhelmed, you're not thinking clearly. And so the mind that makes the mess is not the mind that can get out by themselves. The whole important thing is to not isolate and be alone with your stuff. Stay engaged, stay inquisitive, and turn your concern into curiosity, your worry into wonder. It's very different when I don't know what to do and worry about it than it is, I wonder what I'm going to do, and then go figure it out. A whole new, fresh perspective of thinking allows you to be curious and engaged and solve the problems. So I took my background in education to create graphic lessons where I give to people how to think it through and what to do as we go through the process, and I remove the emotional and logistical barriers each step of the way, and we just keep on humming along. You don't want to attack your clutter, you want to putter through your clutter. In order to putter through your clutter, you have to be reasonably relaxed. Okay, but if you're angry at the person that you live with, or you think that if you had a different house or a different husband or a different history or a different mother, and that's what's the fire in you, or I have ADHD, it doesn't matter what you have. You still need to turn around and take care of your stuff, and there's ways to do it no matter what your particular challenges are. But none of the tips and strategies in the book, thousands of books about decluttering and organizing are any good. They're good tips and strategies, but they're not good unless they're adapted to your unique person, your personality, your preferences, your priorities, your unique home, square footage, the layout. Then you have half a chance of creating a sustainable system to take care of your stuff. So I'm sort of bucking the organizing system in organizing profession in this, which has been around since the late 1987 was when it started, late 80s. Now, all the things that happened before the 80s, there's very good reason that it became a profession, and then Oprah got on Oprah and brought this organizing business out of the closet where people started talking to each other about it instead of hiding in shame, not being able to take care of their home. Emotional management, time management, and stuff management. But before we go on, why don't I find out a little bit about you? Okay? Your time is valuable. Thank you for coming out on a Tuesday evening. And how many of you are decluttering and organizing, but staying at home? Big hands. Okay, so how many of you are downsizing and moving and planning on moving in 6 weeks to 6 months? Oh, good. Oh, there's nothing. What, you moved a couple months ago? It's behind you, and you wanted to come to this workshop. That's impressive. Now you have to declutter everything you moved, right?
Yes.
Okay. It took me a minute, but I was on to you. And how many people, it's really great that if you are thinking of moving, when you want to get help is when you start thinking about moving, not when you're about to move. If you don't give yourself enough time, it's so much more stressful. So how many people here are, how many people here are expecting grandbabies in their lives? Okay, you have to make room for them, right? How many people here are marrying or remarrying or redivorcing and getting married again and getting divorced again? That's always fun. It's a real double duty when you're getting out of one house with a divorce and you're moving into another house where there's somebody already there and all their stuff. That's fancy footwork. At that point, I really need to be working. I have like 2 homes, 2 personalities, 2 full houses worth of stuff. But it's all doable if you give yourself time. How many people are helping their elderly parents downsize? Okay, how many people are the elderly parents downsizing? It happens to all of us.
How many people already have grandchildren?
Yes, there's that. Yeah. And you want to downsize all those toys? I mean, declutter all those toys?
No, but just make it, make it more wonderful for them.
Yeah. That would be the decluttering and organizing, sort of redesign. Sometimes people hire me just to go into their home to rearrange the furniture. That's really fun. Or the artwork, or how to make it beautiful. So how many people are going through belongings after the passing of a loved one? There you go. Wow, that's a lot. Wow. So what I'm illustrating here is you don't declutter once and for all. You don't organize and get it done once and for all. Decluttering is a life skill to learn and to practice throughout life. The organizing headlines say, it's sort of like get it done once and for all. You're never done. So you might as well learn how to enjoy it. From birth to death and beyond, we're dealing with our stuff. So let me explain what clutter is and what it isn't, and what decluttering is and what it's not. You can be very organized and it's 90% clutter. Okay? And you can have a very messy home and there's almost no clutter in the house. Okay? Mess and clutter definitely go together, but they're not the same thing. So you can have a very organized home and 75% of its clutter. That is what happens often after a death. Okay, but you can have a very messy home and there's no clutter. So clutter is what no longer adds value to your present life. Clutter is no longer what is the stuff in your home that no longer adds value to your present life. Whether it's clutter or not, you have to decide whether it's worth it to you to keep or to let go. You have 5 resources: time, money, energy, space, and skills. Time, money, energy, space, and skills. And when you consider all 5 of your resources, every decision costs or replenishes your resources. You get very self-aware of what you're giving away or what you're replenishing by your decisions. It's very hard to decide what clutter is and what is not if you don't have the criteria to make the good decision. So that's one envelope, is the value envelope. The other is present. What's present in your life, not in the history and not in the future. Clutter is all about telling the truth about what adds value to your present life, not the past, not the future, but around now. So you ask yourself a couple of questions about the stuff. Now joy, you all know what book I'm referring to when I say the word joy? That book is decluttered in every home I'm in. The book is good, okay? What she did was raise the conversation and raise the bar to joy, because it's a very subjective experience. There's no one that no one can declutter for you and tell you no one should come in and tell you to get rid of something. It's a very subjective experience. Only you can decide what adds value to your present life. I can organize for you without you being there, but I can't declutter for you without you being there, okay? So what adds value to your present life? The 4 criteria to decide whether it's clutter or not are love. I love it now. But if you love it and then use it around now, that means around now means a year. Love, use, space. If I let go of these things, I get to keep what I love and use. You see, it's like a puzzle. You put the pieces together. Love, use, space. And this is the one that's often forgotten, and it's your current lifestyle. So you love it now. You use it now, like within a year. You have space for it in your present home or in your next home. That's when I do floor plans with people. So they might love lots of stuff and they want to bring it all with them, but once we do the floor plan, it gets pretty clear what's not coming. Okay? So love, use, space, and lifestyle. And by lifestyle, I mean your current age, your current health, your current hobbies, your current aesthetic. And our stuff naturally becomes clutter as you and your interests change. You know, it's not like it doesn't necessarily come into the house as clutter, but our lives are dynamic, and our stuff actually might have really fit perfectly in a 40-year-old's life, but once we hit 60, it's losing its relevance, and by 80, it's really lost its relevance. I'm not talking about memorabilia or photos at this point, but if you can choose what you really love, what you really use, what really you have space for, and what fits into your current life. My philosophy is if you take very good care of the present, the future will take care of itself. Okay? Pack rats are people who live in the future and are afraid that they won't have what they need in the future. And sentimental people live in the past. And you want to visit your past, but you want to take care of the present. So once you have the criteria to move through the decision making, it's not so hard, but it does require your time. Okay, so which one of these are clutter and what's not? It's very different for every single person here. So when I'm working with you, I'm actually paying exquisite attention to you and not the stuff. So we might go through like, okay, let's see this yoga mat. Okay, how many people would have this be clutter in their homes? Love, use, space, etc. How many people need a yoga mat? Oh my God. Okay. Okay, Lauren, we're going to do a second raffle for this. Okay. Client sort of chucked this into my car one day. as I was leaving, take this too. And I said, okie dokie.
It's also a good carpet pad.
I know, maybe I should keep it. See, you change your life just a little bit. That's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that. I love it when people go, I haven't thought about it that way before. I know I'm getting through. When I'm actually, if I can reframe how you're thinking about it, you'll feel better and you open up from worry to wonder. So this jacket, how many people think this is really ugly? Okay? It is. Do I love it? No. Do I use it? No. Do I have space for it? Yes, it fits into my closet. Does it fit into my aesthetic in my current life? No. But when I filter through those 4 criteria, you don't have to answer yes to all 4 of them, okay? But am I leaning towards keep or let go? Let go. No. This was my grandfather's jacket. And I loved him. It gives me goosebumps right now. And I'll keep this forever. And that's just the way it is. This is a keeper. Right, and I don't have much left of him, okay? But this fits into my life and certainly fits into my closet. And it makes me feel good when I look at it, okay? So you get to keep some things that are sentimental. You don't get to keep everything. That's like overeating and never pooping. It just doesn't work that way. You're gonna get sick, okay? This is not personal. This is not personal. It's totally your decision, but this is the law of nature. You can't keep on putting stuff in your home and expect it not to affect you eventually. But you got to poop a little more often. So this, okay, this is a pie rack. Would this be clutter in your home?
Yeah.
Would it not be clutter in your home? Oh, she's tempted. Okay, well, I happen to collect old metal household items that are now plastic. And so I actually have a display of items just like this. I was so excited when I saw it, and the price was right, and I scarfed it up, and I brought it home. And I had to make room for it, rearranging the room like this was my new baby, okay? And I had to honor and respect the square footage in my home. There's room for this. I love this. And if you actually turn it this way, it could be a really good file rack. Some of you are that's very creative that you knew that. Okay, so this bag, love, use, space, lifestyle. It's actually a really nice bag, if you like the bag. It's not a really nice bag to a lot of people in this room, right? Would this be clutter in your home? I must have really bad taste when it comes to bags. So this must be a really ugly bag for most people. So you like this bag? Who likes this bag? Who loves this bag? You love this bag? And you love this bag?
It's a nice size, yeah.
Yeah? Love, use, space, lifestyle. It fits into your aesthetic? Fits into your aesthetic? What is a girl to do? Love, use, space, and how many pocketbooks do you already have?
5.
Only? That's impressive. How many pocketbooks do you have?
Me?
Who? You, yes. You want?
More than 5.
Okay, it's going to her. It's yours. Okay? You see how you just show up and figure it out?
I think you're getting rid of your things here.
Oh.
You don't want.
Well, because my life, just like your life, is not stagnant, your stuff naturally becomes clutter as your life and interests change. This changed for me. This never changed for me. This I brought in because it was worth it to me to spend the money for it. And this, we're going to raffle for it. Got a lot of yoga girls and guys in here. So you see how you figure out the questions? Okay. So I was just going to say, do you have any questions yourself?
No, I just wanted to say that yoga mats are great in the winter when it's snowing. You wrap it up around your windshield, and then in the morning or whenever, you just pull the whole thing off and your windshield's clean.
I might have to keep this. Okay. Really, the question isn't, what am I going to do with my stuff? And then freeze. You don't want to freeze. You don't want to flee from the decision. The hardest part is getting clients to keep on showing up and staying with the question until they have an answer. So fight, flight, freeze, we figure it out. Go, you know what, I'm going to weave this into my calendar and give it maybe an hour a week or 2 hours a month to try and figure it out. Like I'm working with somebody now who's moving in now 5 weeks into a new condo, and when she called me, she was thinking of doing a yard sale of the items in her home. I hadn't been in her home yet, but I knew with 5 weeks with the size of her home and what she was describing and how she processed herself, I said, you know, a yard sale is going to take 5 days out of your life, and it will take 2 days to recover. So can you afford 7 days when you have 5 weeks to get completely out of your house? I said, I don't recommend a yard sale. And so what we're doing instead is we created a strategy with the rest of the family where the whole family is showing up on one weekend and whatever gets done is there and the rest is going to be donated. But I'm also bringing an auctioneer in to evaluate what's left. And it will be sold by one person who takes everything. There's like 15 pieces of furniture. They're all going, and somebody else is going to be responsible for selling it for him and for her. And so we're going to be able, then we can focus on the rest of the house and the move. You see, it needs to fit into your timeline. Emotional management and time management. Those are the two things that need to be managed before you get into the stuff. We have to really honor that our stomach will only hold so much. Our homes will only hold so much. You can rent a storage unit, but then you have a whole host of other problems. See, my work with people is discussion to come up with a good solution. Now, we don't get rid of our clutter. That's another thing that is the attitude. We want to putter through our clutter, and you want to make a decision about what to do with your clutter that actually feels good to you. So, but we don't get rid of our clutter. That's what filled the planet of our stuff and of trash. Get rid of sort of sounds dismissive and disrespectful. You want to show up and take care of your clutter in such a way where you choose to let it go. You decide whether it's clutter or not, and then you choose to let it go in such a way that feels good. There's only so many options. You donate, you give it to family or friends. You have to ask first. Don't just drop it off. Okay? A friend of mine teaches a workshop about kids going, they don't want your stuff, get over it. It's unbelievable how there's a whole different culture coming after us. So where was I?
Options to get rid of it.
Options to get rid of it. What? Did that come out of my mouth? Options to choose how to let it go in a way that feels good. This is all about you. It's a subjective experience. You may not have children. You may have children. You may not get along with your children. They don't want your stuff whether you get along with them or not. Okay? But eventually you ask them, and then you have to go through that painful experience. Just don't take it personally. They're not saying no to you. They're saying no to your stuff. So you choose how to let it go in a way that feels good. There's a few options. Give it to your family or friends. You donate it to organizations you care for. You trash it. Or you sell it. And then what's left over is what you keep. The decision making is how to sell it and how to get it out of your house. Everyone needs 2 young men in a truck. Okay? Just before you start doing massive decluttering, just line them up. And I promise you, or build up a routine to take it out yourself in your what used to be station wagons. I don't have station wagons anymore. I really do age myself. The biggest mistake people make is to try and do too much, too fast, too hard, in too little time. Okay, they clear out the whole weekend and they knock themselves out, and then Monday rolls around and they're almost horizontal, and they look around going, I can't believe that's all I got done most of the time. And then they know they have to come back and do it again, and your brain's smart enough to not want to do it again. Okay, so you're building up resistance by doing that way. Decluttering is a life skill that you need to practice through time. in little bits, like 2 hours a week, 1 day a month. And decluttering is a family affair, okay? It shouldn't fall, I work mostly with women. It shouldn't fall all on their shoulders. But let me give you an example. I was working with a lovely couple in their 60s in Arlington, very happy together. And they were renovating, and also there was a guest room that she wanted to turn into a reading and writing studio. Well, this woman, I put my hand, we were having a really good time picking paint and all of that, and I put my hand on this bureau. And the tears started coming out of her eyes. And I said, "What's the matter, sweetie pie?" And she said, "I've been trying to get rid of that effing bureau for 25 effing years." And I'm going, "Really?" But that's the kind of, see the potency of the emotion? We don't just jump into what are we going to do with the bureau and get rid of it out of the house. And I said, "What's gotten in the way?" "My husband." 25 years. Now, I happen to know they actually got along really well. The difference is that that bureau was her husband's first wife's bureau, okay? And had been sitting in her guest room for 25 years. Now, her husband and she get along really well. That bureau just never got to be one of his priorities. The problem wasn't her husband's alone. The problem is that she gave up. And she didn't know how to negotiate an agreement with her husband other than nag him to death. And then, of course, he doesn't want to show up for that. Okay, so I asked her husband to come into the room, and I'm often in the middle of people in their homes negotiating what to do with this stuff. And he was just stunned that she was upset about the bureau. He had long forgotten the bureau. It had been 10 years. I think she stopped 10 years ago, but for her, it's been in her house for 25 years. That's a quarter of a century. This is a really high-functioning woman. You're wondering how she couldn't get the bureau out. She gave up because she didn't want to fight with her husband, and she loved her husband more than getting rid of the bureau. So our priorities are what's running the show. But so he came in, and to negotiate the process, his needs need to be respected as much as her needs. So he's French-Canadian and grew up in poverty. She is middle class, maybe upper middle class Jewish New Yorker Jew. Okay, totally different relationship to the stuff. She can chuck it. He cannot not try and sell this bureau. He's not being a good husband if he just takes it out and throws it away. So we made an agreement. He has the skills to sell it on Craigslist. I said, "Great, list it tonight, take a picture." He was all ready to go, and in 1 week's time, if it hasn't sold, it's going out. And he said, "Okay." Now, I knew that the price he was selling the bureau, it would never sell, or at least I suspected. But that's none of my business. Okay, I sort of suggested that he lower it a little bit, and he said, "No, I want to get as much as I can." This is in his DNA. You don't push against that. And so before I left that day, I said to the wife, I said, "You have a housekeeper? Does she have a husband? Does she want the bureau? Make sure he's here in a week with a truck." And the bureau was gone in a week, and everyone was happy. The whole idea is, how can you find a solution that actually fits your unique circumstances? Really what you need to do is integrate the decluttering and organizing in little bits through time. Create a routine for your family. It sounds kind of way too logical. There must be a magic potion somewhere. But the hardest thing is to keep on showing up with the other pressures on your life. So one of the first things I do with people is declutter their calendar and help them rearrange their priorities to make the time. But let me tell you that whenever you get that constriction in your heart, like, how am I going to get everything done? And you just freeze. And I hate that feeling. Sometimes I have it. And that's the minute I have that feeling, I call somebody for help. Or there's 5 options: do, delegate, drop, diminish, or defer. At any given moment, when you're pressed in time, this is not just related to clutter. This is really good time management. Wherever you feel that constriction of how am I going to get everything done, you don't. You don't get everything done on your list. You get the highest priorities. So you have to consistently make decluttering part of your daily life. Kind of like brushing teeth. If you didn't brush your teeth regularly, it gets kind of grody in there, right? It's the same thing in our homes. You just regularly show up. So how do I do that when I'm so busy? So you put in the schedule and you look at, okay, I want to declutter my office. And you look at your office and you look at those piles and you go to the movies. Right? It's like, not today. I deal with procrastination and perfection a lot. And so they know I'm showing up. So I do help people create a plan through time. They might work on their own once the plan's in place. And then I help them stay accountable and we problem solve each step of the way. But if you feel that constraint, look at what you need to do and you ask yourself, okay, can I do it? Can I diminish it, which makes a big project smaller? Can I delegate it? Defer it. I really can't do this week. I'm going to bounce it into next week. You don't abandon your intentions, you just move them to another day. And this is a great way to just keep on moving through the process, and you have to decide your priorities. Another person I worked with hated doing her dishes, and there was no one there to nag her to do the dishes, but of course the dishes stacked up. See, there's nothing wrong. When I go into a home, I notice without the judgment. I noticed without the judgment. I said, well, of course your dishes are in your sink. And so the thing is not to force herself to do the dishes or force herself to do the decluttering. You back up and you go, well, how can I do this in a way that feels relatively good? And so I started talking to her a little bit, and all of a sudden I said, what do you really love doing? And she says, I love opera. And I said, bingo, it's music. You can listen to music and do dishes at the same time. So she said, I wish I could listen to my music more. And so we designed a way in which she gets to do her dishes night or morning. She decided morning was best because she didn't like to do them at night. She wakes up in the morning and she turns the opera on, and she finally is doing her dishes in a way that before it was just drudgery. So the first step is not to attack your clutter or take care of your clutter. The first step is to back up and figure out how you can do it in a reasonably comfortable way. And there's lots of options, and it's through dialogue and through discovery where you turn your worry into wonder and your concern into curiosity. I worked in one home. The woman had 8 children, middle-class Catholic family, 8 children. They all went away, and she had 8 empty closets. And so she went and did the next best thing that she knew how to do, which was shop. Okay? She was a very good shopper. And she liked to collect, I'm changing what she collected. She liked to collect, let's make horses. Little animals, little tchotchkes throughout the house, and some of them were actually quite nice. But a lot of her clothes, her underwear, her pajamas, her sweaters, her shirts had little horses on them. But there were a lot of horses and a lot of clothes. And I'm going, oh, honey, what are we going to do? And her daughter actually brought me in because they were like terrified, like, what are we going to do? My mother, she's lost her mind. And they didn't want to go through all this stuff because, they would argue or whatever. I never fight with my clients. So we went through the process. You declutter, you spill it out, spread it out, sort it out, and put it into categories. The pants were the pants, the sweaters were the sweaters, shirts were the shirts, the pajamas were the pajamas. This is really important. Decluttering for the stuff management. Then you go to one category at a time. We weren't getting very far because she loved horses. And she loved clothes. So I had to find out something that she loved more than horses and clothes. And I'm sitting there going, wow, what am I going to do? And so I had to think about it. And I finally said, okay, what do you love? I don't know what you love. What do you love more than horses and clothes? And she had to sit down and think about it. And then she looked up at me with sparkle in her eye. And she said, my grandchildren. And I said, bingo. I grabbed her hand, off to the bank we went. And we opened a bank account. Okay, and she was finally motivated. She was reconnected to her purpose, and she was able to let go of her clothes now and sell them, and the money went into the bank account for her grandchildren's college fund. You see, if you stay with it, there's a solution for all of it. We only worked together 2 or 3 times. She was well on her way doing it on her own. And she started standing more proud. She had a lot of purpose. But But just know that there's a solution to it all about emotional management, time management, and then you can get to the stuff management. The biggest fear people have is that they'll make a mistake and regret it for the rest of their lives. So please slow down and give yourself time to think it through. Don't be in a hurry to get it done. Just like when you go down 128, if you're Russian, you're much more likely to get a ticket, miss the turn, or crash. You want to slow down and keep on showing up steadily through time. And then it's a beautiful, and may I say enjoyable, experience of considering what really adds value to your present life. And that's the gift of decluttering. What was once drudgery becomes discovery. What was once concern turns into curiosity. Reach out and help. If you have something that you don't know what to do with, go ask 3 people, what would you do if you were me? You need to gather information to make a good decision. And one of those 3 things usually leads you in a direction that's satisfactory. But don't isolate, don't be alone, and stay connected with the people who love you. So thank you.
What's the first thing you need to do before you get help?
Well, a good time to get help is to pay attention to how you feel. Are you overwhelmed or are you stuck? Okay?
Okay.
And then you go, well, can I get out of this myself? And if not, that's when you ask for help. Okay? It's very hard to get out of those emotions on your own. If you're overwhelmed or stuck repetitively, it's not lack of effort. People call me after repeated failure attempts to stay organized or stay decluttered, or they're arguing with somebody, or they're just plain tired, or they just plain ran out of time and the moving truck is coming. If you're moving in a year from now, that's a good time to ask for help, to get a plan, realistic expectations, and putter week to week through your clutter. If you have run out of time and you need help, like I just did a house in really nice couple. They actually were pretty organized. They just were completely overstuffed. They never let go of anything. He was a pack rat and she was an excessive shopper. It took not in the whole house, just with her clothes. We have issues of perfection here. I'm coaching her after we moved her, not during, because we were out of time. So I worked exclusively with her. I brought in a member of my team to work exclusively with the husband. These were healthy, happy people who were gainfully employed, who just let it get out of hand in their home, and then they moved. And then I brought in 2 assistants who got us ready, laying out the stuff, breaking it down, dealing with the trash, dealing with the recycling. We had 6 people working in that house 3 days a week for 3 to 6 hours a day. Okay, and we got them out in the 6-week timeline when the moving truck was coming. And the closing had to take place. If you wait and think that you're going to take care of it yourself and you're running out of time, that's when it gets so hard. Start early and keep on moving. Now, my other one that was called me, 3 years before the move. There was hardly any stress in this work at all, because we just puttered through her clutter. We didn't have to attack it, we didn't have to hate it, we didn't have to resent it. We had to show up and take care of it. You see the difference? Everyone's different, so no project is the same. And we have time. Thank you. Also, I have Paper Clarity here. You can purchase this online or from my website, from a PDF. It's all about what legal, financial, and medical documents to keep, when you can shred, and how to organize them. If you'd like a half-hour free phone coaching session with me, we can discuss your unique circumstances and how to make your decluttering, organizing, downsizing, and move more enjoyable. Please visit my website, clutterclarity.com, or call Clutter Clarity at 978-704-1897. I look forward to hearing from you, and just remember, it doesn't need to be so hard. Promise. Thanks very much for watching.